Computer, and we will get started in just 2 more minutes. Hello, good morning, Tiffany. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, Mitch. You're muted.
I simply said, howdy.
Howdy. Let's see. Let's get us all pinned up. That pin. Good morning, Gilberto. Thank you for joining us. In just a few minutes, we'll get started. We are looking forward to sharing with you the process of buying and being able to cover and answer any questions that you may have. So feel free at any time as we go through the presentation to write your questions in the chat, and we will definitely cover those questions for you. We hope you guys are all having a great morning. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Aisha Allen, and I'm your Realtist of Fresno County president. And we are excited to have you guys join us today as we will cover the home buying process. Please feel free to leave any questions you may have in the chat, and we'll be sure to answer any of your questions. All right. Let's see. Before we get started, I'm going to ask our chaplain, Mitch, if he can get us started in prayer.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Aisha. I'm excited about all that's going to take place today. God, we thank you for another day. We thank you, God, for that we are here to be on this call. There's so many catastrophes and calamities throughout the world. We pray your blessing on people everywhere from Maui to just across the world that are in need. We pray your blessing on the people that are on this call that are in need. Whether it be for health, for family members, for mental issues, we need you, Father. So we thank you for your blessing, and we ask that you would bless this time together. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. All right. So we're going to go into our mission. The mission for our initiative is designed with high level of comprehensive homebuyer education and counseling and financial literacy. Our first-time homebuyer workshops, down payment assistance programs, grants, and flexible mortgage products and programs for the communities of Greater Fresno. The purpose of this initiative is designed to increase the home ownership for low to moderate first-time homebuyers in the Greater Fresno region. And of course, we are definitely advocates of multi-generational, multi-homes and investments. But we definitely do cater to assisting first-time homebuyers, as those folks usually need a bit more education and assistance in the process of home buying. We'd like to introduce you to our Realtist team. Again, my name is Aisha Allen. I'm your Realtist, your 2023 Realtist president. Lionel Lacovi is also joining us today. He is your past president. Krishna Lott, our second VP. We have Rosie, sorry, I have little items all over. Rosie Lopez, she is our amazing treasurer. Jeffrey Hess is our amazing first secretary. Samisha Still, our second secretary. And you heard our amazing prayer from our amazing chaplain, Mitch Shaw. And we have Annette DeDios, who is our parliamentarian. Let's get to the next slide. Our partners, we can't do them without us. So our initiative is joined in partnership with the City of Fresno, Realtist of Fresno County, and our amazing partners with Tri-County Bank. And I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to you, Lionel, so you can get us started in the workshop.
Well, good morning, everybody. I want to first start off by thanking you for taking the time out of your wonderful Saturday to join us today. And we hope to provide you some very informative items here today. And so, with the workshop overview, we're going to talk about how your realtor will guide you through the home buying process, which can be a very lengthy process. So, we hope that within the next hour, we can give you as much information on this as possible. We'll talk about the lending programs and options and loan pre-approval process. We have Rosie Lopez who will dive into that quite a bit. We're going to talk about the escrow, the gatekeepers to your transaction, and what their role is in the home buying process. And of course, we'll close out with questions and answers as we come to the conclusion. So to start off, how your realtor would guide you home. Now, simply put, there's quite of a process into the home buying, journey, I should say. We'll start off by introducing to what a realtist is. Realtors are realtors. We are licensed realtors, licensed professionals who are committed to the mission of our organization, the Realtist of Fresno County. We have an added responsibility which is to empower homeownership through education and community engagement. Realtors are trustworthy, we're patient, we're very knowledgeable, and our role is to guide you through the entire buying process. And that's what we're here for, to educate you on every aspect of that process. So how do you select your realtors? Well, there are a few things to consider, of course. And anytime you're selecting a realtor or realtist, and there is a distinction between realtist and realtor. One of the things that makes us unique, I would say, is we are members of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. With that, we have added responsibility to our community because, again, our mission is to engage with our community and educate them. So when you're selecting a realtor, you want to be very, very mindful of these few items that we're going to discuss. Compatibility. You want to make sure whoever you select to represent you understands your needs, right? You need to have a relationship that is compatible to what you need and what you're looking for. That's going to be very, very important. Communication. With any relationship, you need to have excellent communication. And you want to make sure that it's someone that you can always reach whenever you need. You want to make sure that they're available to you and they can answer your questions and really provide feedback. So communication is very, very important. And it's one of the reasons why we listed it on this PowerPoint today. The service in any line of business is very important. As a realtor or in the home buying process, you want to make sure you're getting more than adequate service, right? We have a responsibility to you and to service you in every aspect of this process. And so, having excellent service is important. It could be as simple as making sure that you feel your needs are being met, right? There's nothing like going into a restaurant or going to a place and getting bad service. We all recognize it very, very quickly. So you want to make sure that you're getting appropriate service and adequate, more than adequate service from your realtors. You want to make sure your realtors is knowledgeable, and that can come in various ways because as a home buyer, you might be more educated in this process than you realize. And so you want to make sure that your realtors knows what they're talking about. You want to make sure that their advice that they're giving you and the information they're providing you is actually, legitimate information. So make sure that they know what they're talking about. You want to make sure that they're very knowledgeable in the field and the information that they're providing you with so that you feel confident in how to submit offers, in just the journey and the process of home buying. Ethics is a very important one. And I think I actually put that on the top of this list because I think having someone that is very ethical is important. We want to make sure we do right by you. And so I think as a realtor, I put ethics as one of the top ones as far as one of the aspects in which you should focus on as you're doing your realtor search. Okay. So your home search process, there are two things you want to focus on: your needs versus your wants. Needs may be, for example, maybe you want a house with the pool. Maybe for you, for someone who lives in Fresno, you think, oh man, with these 100-degree temperatures, I absolutely need to have a pool. If that's a need, make sure you put that on your needs list and don't do without it. But you know, and I use that because that's a little extreme. But there are other aspects, like maybe you want to be in a specific school district. That is an absolute need. You want your kid to go to a certain school, and for them to attend said school, you have to be in a specific district. So that might be a need for you. Maybe because of your family size, you need to have two bathrooms. You can't do without with just one. So being able to identify your needs is very, very important, and then determine what's a need and what's a want. Right? Like I mentioned, for some families, they might want a pool, but do they actually need a pool? No. Right? I think for some of us, you know, wanting a pool in this Fresno temperature is a need, but for most of us, I would say it's more of a want. We can all agree to that, right? The condition of the home is very, very important. You know, we talked about location, make sure that the property is in the correct school district for your kids and things of that nature. But the condition of the home is very, very important. Do you want to get into a home that needs a lot of work? Do you have the financial capability to buy a house and then right when you move in, you're tasked with having to do lots of repairs, right? So you want to be very mindful of the condition of the home. You want to make sure that the condition meets your needs, right? For example, if you move into a house and during your inspections you realize, you know, the flooring is in really really bad shape, or the you know the sheetrock, you know, is in really bad shape. You want to make sure these are things that you can actually tackle as far as repairs, if you have to. So be very careful on what you go into when you're considering conditions of your home, right? And that can vary tremendously, by the way. The time frame. Time frame is a good example because the average transaction, I would say, purchase process can be anywhere from 30 to 45 days. But let's say you're you know, we're in August right now. Let's say you started searching for a home in July and you need to get into a certain district before school started. Well, you want to make sure that you could probably close that home within 30 days if you have to be in that district to get your kid into a certain school. So being very mindful of your time frame, you know, and time frame can be, maybe I'm preparing to buy a home, but I'm maybe 60 days out from being completely ready. So maybe I'm not starting to put offers in yet, but I'm searching and being mindful, that within 60 days I'll have some a better capability of actually starting that purchase journey. So be mindful of your time frame. You can start the search process a whole year out, especially with the way the market is right now. You may take some time to get that journey started for yourself. So be very, very mindful of your time frame. And then we're going to talk about new construction versus resale. And we'll dive into new construction a little bit more later, by our very own chaplain, Mitch. But in new construction, I simply put, is a brand new home, townhouse, condo, very brand new. It just was built. It hasn't been sold before. It has never been lived in before. Versus a resale, which is the most traditional, I would say. Most of us buy resale for the most part. But the biggest difference is new construction is what it is. It's brand new, right? So there are various aspects of that that we're going to dive into a little bit later. And then budget. Your lender will work with you to establish a budget that fits your needs. And budget is a very important one because we all want the biggest and nicest home. And what we tend to forget is, what is in my budget? What can I actually afford? Most oftentimes, people will go to a lender and they get a pre approval. And your pre-approved might say you could qualify for a $500,000 home, but does that mean you can actually pay the mortgage on the $500,000 home? So being very mindful of what your family budget is and what you can actually afford is very important, because what we don't want to do is put you in a home that you cannot keep. That is the absolute worst case scenario. So our job is to make sure that you're mindful of this. And then with that, we're going to go into new construction, and Mr. Mitch Shaw will dive into that with you guys. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Well done, Lionel. Thank you for sharing that great information with us. I that was a lot for you guys to digest. Just know that we'll have an opportunity to recap it and for you to ask questions. So feel free to hop into the chat and ask any questions that you may have. We give you our word. This is not to make anyone feel small. Sometimes people say that there's no dumb questions. The only dumb question is the one that's not asked, but then they kind of make you feel that way when you ask it. We give you our word that we won't do that today. So Lionel mentioned a bit about new construction earlier, and I think just for the simplest part about it, he was very clear that it means that it's a brand new home. And the thing that you want to know is if you, after you've chosen your realtor or your realtist, if you want them to go through that process with you, it's very important that they go with you the very first time that you visit the new home site. That's really, if you could have one takeaway, that would be it. If you happen to go and visit a new home site and they register your name and you come back next week and go, oh, I forgot to tell you when I was in last week that I have a realtor, then the realtor is not able to help you through the process. It's just kind of the way the rules are set up. So if you could remember anything, if you're thinking about new construction, it's okay to go and visit them. You know, you just want to make sure you don't register, give them your information or anything. If it's something that you're serious about and you want some help being guided through that process, you must take your realtor with you on your first visit to represent you. Next slide, please. Well, good deal. Well, let's talk about the timeline. You have gone through the process. You've done what Lionel said. You looked at your budget. You found out what your sweet spot was and what you could afford. You're going to hear from a very great lender. Pretty soon, you will have chosen your lender. You will have looked at the different needs versus wants. And you're now ready to go shopping for a home. And guess what? You found one that you think may be the home of your dreams. So this is what that process looks like a little bit. The first thing that you want to do is you want to write an offer. And that's where the educational aspect from the realtor comes in that Lionel talked about. Writing an offer on a minimum. Well, first of all, know that writing an offer is a contract, not between you and the realtor. It is a contract, a legally binding contract between yourself, the buyer, and the seller. So the pages involved in this contract, on a minimum, there's going to be 30 different pages of the residential purchase agreement, as well as disclosures and advisories. 30 pages. There's good stuff in there. There's things that protect you in there, but it can only protect you if you know what it is. So even before writing the offer, you want to be with a realtor who's going to sit down and explain that contract with you. The last thing you want to do is say, hey, I've fallen in love with this house. I want to write an offer. I want to pay this much money. And then you electronically sign 30 pages of stuff and you don't know what it is. Then you start to wonder, what did I sign? What kind of surprises are going to come up? So I really suggest that you sit with your realtor, that you have a chance to ask questions about the offer. The offer is called a residential purchase agreement, an RPA. So in writing that offer, your first step is you want to become educated on the contract that you're writing. You submit your offer, and guess what? Your offer was accepted by the seller. They signed it and said, sure, we'd love to sell you our house. EMD is just another word for deposit. It means that 3 days after your offer is accepted, you must send the agreed upon amount, your deposit, you must send that to escrow. And we'll talk a little more about who escrow is. We call them the gatekeepers or the referees. So your offer's been accepted. You've paid your deposit. Now it's time for you to do your inspections. Now, keep in mind, you're not legally required to do any inspections. As a realtor, your realtor is going to suggest that you do these inspections. Have you guys watched judge shows where there's someone, People's Court or whatever it might be, Judge Judy or whatever it might be, and you've got one person that sold a used car to another person, and that person is saying, they sold me this car and it doesn't work and I want my money back. And the judge always says, well, did you take it to a mechanic to get it checked out first? And the person that's on the other side usually goes, no, I didn't think to do that. Well, doing your inspections on a home is like taking the home that you're going to buy to a mechanic to get it checked out. There's a cost involved. You're probably going to spend out of your pocket, non-refundable, probably anywhere between $750 and $1,000. Depending on the type of inspections that you get. You'll want a home inspector to come out. You'll want a roof inspection, a pest, a termite inspection. Some people will get HV inspections, HVAC inspections, sewer line inspections, whatever it is you feel that you want checked out about that house. That's where you get your inspections done. And again, if you're not, this is a lot of information, I know, and I'll speed this up. You will have a realtor that will take you through all of this. Keep in mind that through this process, you should be with a realtor who makes you feel comfortable and in control, comfortable with asking questions, and that there be no surprises. You don't want, think about it. Most of us don't want a surprise when we're buying a big screen TV. How much more would I not want a surprise when I'm spending $400,000 or $300,000 on something? So contingency periods, that's just your safe zone. I mean, we can get into that later. You get to do a final walkthrough on the house. And once you get through all of that stuff, I like to call this kind of the escrow sprint. You're able to get your keys. Next slide, Aisha, please. I didn't mean to take so long on that one.
Totally.
Home warranty versus home insurance. Home insurance is just what it says. Your title company will require you to have insurance on the home. I'm starting at the one on the bottom. So home insurance is just that, against fire, flood, damage, those type of things. You pay just like you pay to have car insurance. Some have renter's insurance. Home insurance is the same thing. A home warranty is a bit different. It's an elective. You can choose to buy it or not. Home warranty says, I'm going to pay, there's companies out there that if you will pay them, it varies on how much you will pay them every year. But if you pay them, they will cover certain things in your house that break down. You can put extended coverage on it. If you have a pool, you can extend your coverage to cover your air conditioning. So it's like having insurance on the specific items that are either are your house or that are in your house. So again, that's something, a home warranty that you want to have explained to you so you can make a decision. I'll tell you honestly, home warranties are not for everyone. I think they're for most people, but there are some people, depending on the type of house that you buy and what your background is, you may come from a family full of contractors, and everything that breaks, Uncle Sal comes and fixes it. So you don't, maybe you decide not to elect to have it. Next slide, please, or am I done? Next slide, please. That is. Aisha, I think I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm tired of talking. I'm out of breath.
You do such a great job at it, though. I love listening to you speak. Okay, awesome. So we did talk about escrow. Mitch mentioned that they are the gatekeepers to your transaction. Escrow is going to be the middleman between the buyers and the sellers. They are your neutral party. So escrow is going to get a copy of the contracts. They're going to get a copy of the agreement and all the negotiations that are going to go on between the buyers and the sellers. They're also going to be holding those deposit funds that Mitch discussed in the beginning. So depending on how everything pans out, as long as the buyer and the seller agrees, those funds will just get distributed as they should be. So let's go into a bit of what that looks like. So once you get into escrow, you have 3 days to submit your earnest money deposit or your deposit into the escrow account. And that will be a percentage dependent that you and your agent will be discussing prior to submitting your offer. We'll give the escrow holders the account information for the buyers and the sellers on the transaction and a copy of all of the documentation up front. Once we've had that going on, then your lender has your documents ready. They'll contact escrow to coordinate the signing for all of the documents. So they will also review all of the documentation that your lender provides to you. And then you and your lender will send all of the closing funds towards the close of escrow, the remaining funds, aside from the deposits, to be able to close the remainder funds. Once all of those documents are received, they will be recorded and the magic words will be said. We are on record. And at that time, your realtor will be able to provide you with the keys to your brand new home. It sounds so simple and easy, and there is a little bit more details to it, but that is the gist of in regards to the escrow process. Escrow also have great information in regards to the way that you carry and hold your title to the ownership of the property. They also will have title insurance for the property as well. And the title insurance will make sure that there isn't anything that is clouding the title, which means preventing the home from being sold from one owner to the other. And if so, they'll review all of the information that could potentially prevent the home from being sold and making sure that that all gets taken care of. The escrow insurance will also have coverage in case something else that was not shown during the transaction process comes up after the fact, once you become the new homeowner, so that insurance policy can come into play to help remediate anything that comes up after the fact. So that is another key element of having an escrow company and the escrow insurance as well. And so awesome. So that's a little bit more details on that. And now we are going to hand it over to our amazing lender partner, Rosie Lopez.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for sharing all that great detailed information. My name is Rosie. I am a lender at Self-Help Federal Credit Union. I've been in banking maybe about now going on 20 years. So in mortgage, I've been in mortgage about 5 years now. No, 6, excuse me. So I just want to kind of go over just the lending programs that are out there for everybody. So not necessarily if I offer that program, but just more importantly, that we just want to share with you all that to do your research when you're looking for these programs for you, on what benefits you, on what helps you, especially with the budget. We know we've talked about budget. Lionel really expressed how budget is important, as well as Mitch did, because it's truthfully right now with our rates being high, and we all know rates are a little bit higher right now, it's really depending on what budget you can afford, because not just with the rates being a little bit higher, of course, you're going to get that mortgage payment to be a little higher too. So that's where also that needs list and that wants list comes in play, because we really want to make sure, most importantly, that we're not doing an injustice in getting you a high mortgage payment just because you wanted that pull. So that's why we really mention that. And that's why we really just reiterate of how important it is of just knowing where you are up front. So meeting with the lender, and not just me, and we can always give you, we can connect you with other lenders who you think might help you best as well. So again, it's just like Lionel Mitch mentioned, you're looking for somebody who you can rely on and who you can depend on. You're looking for those referrals. Ask your friends, ask your family who they worked with. Do your research up front, and it's truly most important in all when you get started with your home process. So go ahead and next slide. So just kind of how it works on our end. So you'll meet with myself as the lender, or again, you'll meet with any lender who you feel is best for you, best for your family, because you're going to start now doing your application and you're going through your pre-approval phase or your pre-qualification. So what that is when you're looking to kind of see what you qualify for, and you're going through the peace of mind of knowing how much the purchase price that you're going to get, the payment, and then what homes you can start looking for. I know there was a quick question of what's better to buy, a new construction or an older home. I mean, that all ranges also with your budget, what you can afford, most definitely. So, and when you meet with your lender, I mean, that's a great question to kind of see what is out there. And then our realtors here, who are professionals at that, will go over with you what homes are available, new construction, older homes, what's really available right now that in your price range, or what we can afford for you. And then, so once you get your pre-approval, we've done your application, then we start the loan processing phase, which Mitch mentioned. You've got into contract, the sellers have accepted your contract, and now we start the loan processing on our end with the lender side. We start now doing your verifications of employment, of rental, whatever is needed for you to get approved for your loan, and for you to have that file ready for underwriting, and then we get that approval or denial, and hopefully we never have that denial for you. But that's why we have that processing phase, and that's where we go through what he also mentioned. You have that contingencies phase, the time period as well, because this is what we're doing in that time frame. We're trying to get that loan ready for you to get approved. But typically upfront on my end, just to kind of put out there, we kind of go through your credit, your assets, your income upfront, so that once we get to that underwriting stage approval, we already know like we're solid. We've already reviewed it. And even we've already put you on a plan. If you weren't ready that first time around, that's most important too. And that I really stress, if you're meeting with that lender and you know you're not ready, make sure that lender puts you on some type of plan that you can be ready. It's never going to be a no for you at that first time. There's plenty of time to purchase. There's plenty of time for you to get ready and you feel comfortable to make that big purchase. This is the biggest purchase of your life. So we want to be sure you're most confident, you're most comfortable with it. So again, so you go through underwriting, then we get that approval phase, and then we go to closing. And then that's where that wonderful, we're on record word is we hear, and then we get your keys. Your Realtist offers you your keys. But most importantly is starting that lending process of getting that pre-approval first, so that you know what you're qualified for, how much your payment is going to be. And when you're out there searching for homes, then you can kind of see, is it a new construction that's going to work for me? Is it an older home that's going to work for me? Along with that, the inspections. Here at Self-Help Federal Credit Union, we do require some inspections for our loans. So depending on also what lender you do go with. So example, we require a pest inspection because we want to be sure you're putting in your time, your money into this home. We want to be sure that now that home is safety for you to move in. And we don't want you to move in and then all of a sudden there's all these repairs, a wall fell. I mean, that's where these all come in for you. And that's why it's an importance of doing those inspections and why we require them. And it's just a safety measure for you as that home buyer. You want to walk in and you want to be comfortable. You don't have to worry about a repair, worry about an inspection or anything. That's already been done with, cleared. We know we have that clearance report. So very important things just to kind of keep in mind when you're thinking about inspections, about budgeting also. So because that might also come from your cost. It's definitely, you have these great realtors that can negotiate with the sellers, but at times those inspections will come out of your pocket. So that's another budget you want to be sure that you have in mind. All right, next slide. So typically for all lenders, this is what the gathered items that we're all going to require. Up front, we're going to require your last 2 years of your W-2s with your tax returns. So typically now we're asking if you're ready to apply now to have your 2021, 2022 tax returns and W-2s ready. Your last 30 days of pay stubs. If you are one who works different jobs throughout the year, we do need to get a full count of your year to date. So we would ask for last pay stub for each employer you've been with, and then your most recent pay stubs for your recent employer, and then bank statements. This is where the budgeting comes in, where we want to see that if you do have enough for the down payment, you do have enough for the closing costs. Most definitely, we have our realtors who can help get you some seller credit for that closing cost. But we also want to be sure that you're leaving yourself some reserves so that you have enough funds to live on after that you've already given so much of your life savings down to that down payment to get that perfect purchase price for you, that perfect payment. Because the more money obviously that you're going to put in, I mean, the better hopes that you are going to get a better payment. And then with the interest rate as well. So as I mentioned, there's many loan officers there's many financial institutions who offer great programs that helps you with the down payment, helps you with closing costs. So please do your research on where you want to start with and who you want to go with. But typically these are all the items that any lender is going to ask for up front. It's just standard. And then go ahead. Oh, let me move. Sorry, how our picture's covering that side. So we'll go over that. I'll answer that question because it could be different from everybody, but I will kind of go how we take on that question. Most importantly, when you're also ready to start applying for a home, lenders do look at your credit. We do look to see obviously what your credit history is, what your FICO score is. How we look at it is depending on what your FICO score is, that's the rate that we're going to offer for your loan. So the better your score is, the better interest rate that you're going to get. The less of your credit score is, then you're looking to typically get a higher interest rate for your loan. And then also that can also drop what the purchase price that you're qualified for at that moment. But this is also where we come in. Let's work on that credit if we know that's something that we need to do. And then within 6 months, you worked on payments, we want to be sure there's no late payments. So it could be a big lieu of items in the credit. And that's where we usually tackle that up front. When you're meeting with me, we're going over your report, we're going over your history, your credit, and then and try to get you onto that right path for the credit to qualify for the loans. And then also credit volume, credit history, all that all plays into the credit requirement of the loan. And then there might be financial institutions who allow lesser credit. There might be financial institutions who they want to see a minimum of a year's credit because they want to see how well you are as a borrower. Can you pay that payment back? I'm giving you a large payment, but then we see that you've been missing your little Bank of America payments for the last couple months. Those really do make a big hit when the underwriters will see your loan and when we're looking at those up front. So we want to make sure that we try to avoid any late payments, always paying on time. And in general, like as I mentioned, we go over that with you. We go over the history with you, and we want to make sure that we're ready for your application to be solid once you're ready to go. Collateral is the home that you're purchasing. So that's where our realtors, our wonderful realtors come in, where they look at the value, the condition of the home with you at first, so that you kind of know what you're expecting, what you're going into, and then the assets for the down payment. Typically, what lenders would like to see is the funds are seasoned for 2 months in your bank, in your account. We do allow here at South Florida Federal Credit Union, we do allow for the assets to go and deposited as a one-time exception into your account during the time of application, because at that time you really know how much you need to deposit. And there are many people out there, don't be afraid, that they have their funds under the sofa, that's still standard, under their mattress. They're saving at home for emergencies. Don't trust banks. But if you are purchasing a home, I mean, I really do highly recommend trust the bank at this time. It's going to be so helpful for your application. Those funds are truly going to be there in your account when we need them to be. And then when you're ready to make that deposit to escrow, they're ready to go. It just helps you so much more smoother along the way when those funds are ready and available in your savings account or checking, whichever you may choose. So again, these are just items that we do go up front with you, that we review at time of your application, just to be sure that you're ready. And then most importantly, how much you can get approved for. And then next. What your lender will do once you do get pre-qualified is that we do go over a fees list. And this is basically upfront. There's some fees that you do pay up front, like you will pay a credit report fee. Some lenders do have an application fee, a processing fee. Self-help does charge 1% processing fee for the full loan once you're in contract, but we never charge a fee to apply, just a credit fee, because that goes to the credit bureaus who reports your information. And then title fees, appraisal fees, all those we do review with you when those do need to be paid. So you want to make sure that you get with the lender who are going to tell you what your fees are up front, so that you're not, like Mitch said, you're getting these papers, you're signing 30 pages, and you don't know what you sign, and all these fees are going to be in there and you had no idea because you just signed. But you want to make sure that you have somebody that's going to go over all these fees, when you're going to pay them, with throughout the transaction of you purchasing your home. Again, as I mentioned, home inspections is very important, because those are the inspectors who go in and see the things the inspection is not going to see. The appraisal is not going to see if there's something wrong with the socket, anything that can happen that we're not going to see in the blind eye. That's where we really highly recommend a home inspection, because that's truly going to help you. And then definitely closing charges and closing fees. We go over that with you, and be sure that you have a lender who goes over those fees with you as well, so that you have that peace of mind of what you're budgeting in for when you're ready to close and how much your closing fees are going to be. So roughly for closing fees, and this isn't down payment, into the purchase price 2 to 4%, depending on what other fees that you're going to be paying along the way. All right, next slide, please. These loan types here are loans that we just wanted to kind of provide to everyone who's on the call and just in general, that so that you know what's out there. Some of these loans I might not offer, but most definitely these are loans that are available to all. If when you do your research and looking for that type of loan that benefits you, and then if you need us to connect you to any other lender, we most definitely can. We do have lenders that we also work closely with here with the Realtist that we can connect you to if it's something that I can assist you with. Most definitely, I would love to meet with you first. But if it's something I definitely can, I want to make sure that you get into that proper the down payment assistance or any assistance that can help you during your purchase of your home. So I'm just going to kind of briefly go over the types of loans that are out there that for you to look into. And then if you have any questions afterwards, we'll make sure we get your contact. But also we do send out an email just to put out there. We do send out an email if you have any questions, that we make sure that we guide you to the right person after our call and have them contact you if you want more information of getting started or for credit, or you just have more questions about with one of our Realtists here. So we'll be sure to get that out to everybody. Just wanted to touch base on that. So the first loan type that is out there for everyone is the Cal FHA. That is a down payment assistance. As mentioned, I'm not going to go too much into requirements of it because I don't want to say any wrong requirements, because it's something I don't work with specifically. So I do apologize. But if you want, take a picture, screenshot, and then you can look these up. But we just wanted to be sure that you just know what types of loans are out there for everyone to research and look into. Okay, next one. Next is our VA types of loans. So, VA, USDA. So back to VA. So just again, minimum requirements there on your left or right screen, depending on how you're looking at it. But again, as you can see there, it's typically the same requirements that a standard loan would ask for any financial institution. But there are VA loans who do help assist with down payments and closing costs. So if there's something that works for you, please go ahead, Mitch. Did you want to say something? Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say. Yeah, so please look into it. We want to be sure that you are aware that there are VA loans. Okay, next. Also for USDA, this is property eligible based in your area. So these ones are for first-time home buyers. 0 down payment required. Again, same requirements that are needed. And then we can connect you with loan officers that we do know that for sure do these types of loans if needed. If you guys need that assistance, we most definitely can get you to the right person. Okay, and then conventional. Conventional is also different requirements. So here at Self-Help, we do conventional, but our minimum requirement is 580. So this is just a standard conventional with other lenders. So like I said, that's why it's very important to do that homework and kind of look into the different types of loans, because there might be different lenders who have different requirements to get approved for a certain type of loan that you're looking for. So again, yeah, take pictures, screenshot, please do. Get as much information as you need. All right, and I think I'm going to pass it back to...
I think that's me.
Okay, perfect.
I want to give everyone, first of all, thank you guys again for being here, and thank you for your patience. Great job, Rosie. Great job to everyone. I want to give you guys a homework assignment. And your homework assignment for today is, I need you to share this information. It doesn't have to be all of the information, but there are people that only you can reach. There are people that are never going to sign up for one of these seminars. It may be a friend, family, coworker, neighbor. Please, your homework assignment is to share this information. As you share the information, you may have part of the answer, some of the answer, or none of the answer. But at least if you can point them there, because it's our goal to educate people with the home buying, the lending process, so that we can increase the level of home ownership. Because we firmly believe, we know for a fact that once you guys have this information, you will take it and run with it and be in a position to make the best decision for you and your family. So that's your homework assignment. Share the information. I'm just going to recap a little bit of what we talked about. Rosie, thanks for putting that contact information. Guys, see that in the chat there. We threw a lot at you today. We talked about what is a realtor, why you need one. You want to have somebody there that, think about it, guiding and educating you it's like a common theme. We heard Rosie talk about it, guiding and educating you. She talked about, Aisha talked about it in the escrow process. So yes, you want to get into the details of what is escrow, what is a lender, what's required of me. But if you would keep in mind that you want someone, you want a lender, you want a realtor that is going to educate you through the process. And someone that's educating you is someone that makes you feel like you're in control. If you ever feel like you're not in control at any point of this process, I'm going to submit you might be dealing with the wrong person. They could be good at what they do, but maybe they're just not the person for you. Rosie talked a lot about that, like asking your family members, find the lender that's for you. So as opposed to going into, you guys covered everything so great, repeating what happens in escrow and what happens when you're buying a new home and that kind of stuff. If you guys could just remember to share this information and also remember to stay in control of this situation so that you can make the best decisions for you and your family, I think we will have accomplished what we're going to accomplish today. Aisha, I'll flip it over to you. I know there were some questions, so whenever you're ready for them, just let us know.
Yes, we're gonna have Lionel just give one more time touch on the benefits of homeownership.
You know, I have to clap, first of all, for everyone that has spoken so far today, because this is a lot of information, as Mitch mentioned, and really our goal is to just give you the information, provide the education, and it is on you to take the initiative, right, and diligently do further research for yourself. And that's the best way to education is you take the ownership and you guide yourself as well. Okay, our job is just to provide the information and to help you along the way. But initially, you need to take that further. So we talked about the benefits of homeownership. Some of these we've already sort of discussed a little bit, but stability, right? Obviously, if you're renting a home or renting an apartment, you can be given notice to move at any point nowadays, right? Your landlord has the ability to tell you, you know what, it's time for you to move, or they want to increase your rent. You with the ownership, you have stability. You can, you have a more constant instead of the flip flopping where every year you get your rent increase or you get a notice to vacate. And I can tell you, having a family and you're given a notice to move in 60 days or 30 days for that matter can be very, very stressful. So once you own your own home, you don't have that any longer. That stress is relieved. Okay. Freedom. You have the freedom to do what you want with your home, whether you want to paint the walls pink. You can do that. You want to put redo your landscaping. Maybe you have certain features you want to add to your home that a landlord wouldn't allow you to, right? I know most landlords wouldn't let you paint the home pink, but you can do that in your own home. So you have the freedom to make that home yours, right? Because it is yours, you own it, and you have the right to do that. Equity is very, very important. And I think this is an aspect that most people don't realize. When you pay rent, and again, this is not to downplay renting because it's very, very important aspect or very important step, I should say, to eventually becoming a homeowner. But when you pay rent, every single penny you pay goes towards paying off your landlord's home. You lose that money. That money is gone the minute you pay that rent payment. But you have to, right? Because you're using that property, so you have to pay for it. So this is kind of gives you a concept. But when you pay your mortgage, every single dime of your mortgage payment offers you equity into your home. And just to kind of give you the simplest explanation for equity is if your home is worth 500,000 for let's say 300,000, your home is worth 300,000 and you have a mortgage of only about 250. You have about $50,000 in equity in that home. every time you make a mortgage payment, you're paying down your home, right? So you're increasing value and increasing equity in your home over time. And so you have to understand when you're paying into your home, you're paying into your own future, which leads us to generational wealth, right? In order to start generational wealth, you have to start with homeownership. And that's why we're all here, because we believe homeownership is probably the biggest vehicle in creating and increasing generational wealth. That same home, for example, that you've been in for 10 years, and let's say you have children that are coming up that are going to go to college, you can utilize that home to pay for their college tuitions. You can utilize that home for other investments in your lifetime, which is what offers generational wealth, right? So it's very important to understand that there are many, many benefits to homeownership. And of course, pride of ownership. You feel grateful, you have gratitude into the home that you own. And we all know when we own something, we take better care of it. That's just how it is. So these are some very, very good benefits, and there are more, but I think these really touch on the major points of why it's so important to become a homeowner. And again, as an organization, we as realtors and lenders and everybody on this call are very, very feel very strongly about the home ownership and why it's so valuable to you all. And we hope that this information can be helpful for your future. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, team. Thank you guys all. And thank you guys for all of the questions that we're getting in the chat. Let's go ahead and go deep into those ones so that we can give you guys a little bit more clarity on some of what you guys may have to ask. Mitch, did you have something you want to touch on?
I wanted to share a question that was sent to me in the chat, just directly to me. It was from Santa Maria, and she wanted to know what a buyer should expect to spend, how much they should have saved in regards to a down payment. That was right before Rosie kind of went into it and said the 2 to 4%. So I thought that if we could ask that question and maybe get Rosie to add it or take away anything that I might have shared with Santa Maria in regards to that.
Yeah, so most loans, you want to at least structure about a 3% for a down payment, an additional 3% to 4% for closing cost, because we have closing cost, and then we want to make sure that you also have reserves for after that you have purchased your home and you still have funds that you're living on. But most importantly, a good amount to start to save will at least be between 3 to 6% for your down payment and closing costs, because there are loans out there who offer 0% closing costs, and you can finance some of your closing costs into your loan. So that's where it's beneficial to meet with the lender and kind of see what programs are out there for you. But just to start getting that savings working, I would definitely start minimum with the 3%, just to start 3 to 4, as we just kind of shared there.
So kind of using that as an estimate, like taking a look at a few like price points based off of what's out there. Let's say, for example, if we're looking at a $300,000 home at 3%, we're looking at a $9,000 down payment, which would be about the same as a closing cost. And of course, you can put more down, which would help bring your monthly payment down a little bit lower, just depending upon how low you want to put. But back in the day, right, Rosie, the only amount you could put down at one point was 20% down. But since then, we have Fannie and Freddie that came up with these additional programs that allowed folks to put less down. So now you can put 10%, 5%, or as low as, well, depending on if you go qualify for FHA, that would be as low as 3.5%.
3.5.
And then if you're going conventional, you can put as low as 3% down. So just take the overall purchase price. So if you're looking on realtor.com, we're going to stay away from Zillow, right? Because they're doing Zestimates and there's some crazy things going on there. But to get realistic numbers, take a look at realtor.com, and based off the overall total purchase price of the home, you can run your numbers basing it off of that. So multiply that by the 3% to get you your down payment amount and then your closing costs. And then depending on the lender, there are different loan programs that will help with closing assistance, or let's say USDA loan. USDA loans are great for homes that are out in the rural areas. The government offers those loans for folks who end up purchasing in those areas to help increase the population. City of Fresno does not qualify, but there are little pockets. So we would have to do a case-by-case run to see if you qualify. But if you do find a home that is in the USDA area, that will cover your down payment. So just a few tips of things to kind of keep in mind as far as calculating how much to pay. Santa Maria asks, she heard it was cheaper to buy a new home rather than an existing home. Is that true? I will say not necessarily. It is
Right.
it's really just depending on a couple different factors. Overall, depending on the purchase, it may be the same as far as down payment amounts and closing costs overall. But a couple things to consider is if you are buying a move-in ready home. Some homes that are resale have been fully renovated, and there may be nothing you need to do to the home to move into it. So you may not have expenses. Whereas, let's say if there's a home that is a little more dated and doesn't have the updates to make it the home you would prefer for it to be, you may have to put a little bit more investment monies into it to update countertops, flooring, brand new paint, those kinds of things. So it's not necessarily cheaper to go the route of buying a new home. And one thing that we do like to share is like, even if it's a brand new home, we still recommend inspections to be done on the home because even with brand new homes, the quality of it may not be up to par. And so having an inspection done may be able to help you allocate or find out if there are things that weren't done properly. Like I've heard that some homes didn't have a vent. One of my clients purchased a home and a whole window was missing that was supposed to be in place. So we were able to catch those items up in advance so that those items could be remediated prior to the client taking ownership of that home.
Can I add to that a little bit, Madam President?
Yes, please.
Madam President makes a great point. It just really depends on various factors. The market can dictate whether or not you should consider resale versus new construction. About a couple of years ago, when the market was really crazy and there were people getting offers, 40 offers or more, it was very, very competitive. And in that market, you had some individuals who opted to consider new construction because it was like, well, I'm not having any shot at some of these resale property because my offer is probably 50 back, and I just don't have any chance at all to get the home. So some people consider new construction, and during certain markets, new construction may offer certain incentives that may make more sense to you. So it's as Madam President stated, it's absolutely true. There are so many factors to consider. So it's not a slam dunk that one is necessarily more efficient or better than the other. So.
Yes, most definitely. And I've been seeing that there are some new construction sites right now that are offering closing assistance or even funds towards upgrades. I've seen one that was even offering up to 30,000 in upgrades. So instead of getting the standard flooring or cabinets, you were able to pick a little bit more higher quality or a different color or those items. So yeah, there are definitely options out there for you to consider. And then timeframes as well. With new construction, sometimes they don't have any homes that are available for you to purchase and move in just yet. You have to wait for it to be built. So the lot is completely bare with the dirt and they're just starting at ground zero. So the time frame is something that you want to keep in mind as well. Well, do you have the time frame? And it's on average about 8 to 12 months of build time to complete those homes. So that's another thing to keep into consideration with new construction homes as well. Another question asked by Angelico is what is the timeline of escrow? Lionel and Mitch, what are the timeframes that you guys are seeing on average with some of your transactions?
I go ahead, Mitch. Sorry.
No, go ahead, brother.
You know what? I've seen some even less than 30 days. I've seen some trying to close 25 and less. And part of it is even though rates are high, prices haven't really gone down very much at all. And you are still seeing you still seeing people buy. Houses are still selling. So some people have had to structure their offers in ways that would, give them kind of head of the list. So maybe doing shorter escrows. But it really depends on the property and what you're offering, and even depends on your lending program. Some programs will not be able to do less than 45 days. So knowing what programs you're working with, talking to your lender, because some lenders will tell you off the bat, you know what, we need 45 days. And then that message needs to be related to your agent, who then structures your offer accordingly. So it kind of ranges, but I've seen some close less than 30. Go ahead, Mitch.
You pretty well covered it. I mean, it varies. There's no norms in real estate. You'll hear some people say, hey, I heard that escrow is 30 days. Remember I said earlier, the purchase contract is a contract between the buyer and the seller. So it's like anyone else. If you're buying a puppy from someone or a TV, you guys negotiate the terms that work best for both sides. And I think in the case of how long escrow is, that's usually what determines it, what number of days works best for both sides.
Absolutely right. Yes, it definitely does. Most of my recent clients have purchase resale homes, and so on average my close timeframes have been 21 days, but that's because when you select a realtor before picking a lender, and it's totally up to you how you decide that, but getting pre-approved is one of those major key aspects to being able to purchase. I work very closely alongside with my team, our inspectors, our lenders, and everyone to try to shorten our time frame. So getting inspections done as soon as we get into contract, getting insurance as soon as we get into contract, as we all are hearing more stories about insurance getting a little bit more difficult and more insurance companies no longer having insurance available for homes. Here in California. So making sure that you get a lot of those important tasks complete at the beginning of the time frame allows for you to be able to have quicker time frames. But again, just like Lionel and Mitch mentioned, some lending programs require a certain time frame. So yeah, working together with a team and having an agent with a team full of people who they can work closely related with and communicate well with can help shorten time frames if everything falls into place. But there are times when things happen in contract that you cannot prevent, that may require you to extend your time frames, as far as that goes. Awesome. I'm not seeing any other questions at this time. Oh, I do. Tiffany, I'm sorry. I have a 2-year work history, but my spouse doesn't. He's been at his job for only a year. Will lenders consider his income? Rosie, that is a great question for you.
So typically, how I would look at it is at least one of you would have to have the 2 years of employment history, and then the second spouse minimum of 6 months working in that same job field. Then we would be able to count your husband's income as well. And also, I also wanted to touch base on what they were just speaking about the time frame of the escrow and whatnot. This is why I was just also stressing how important it is to meet with your lender, because if there's issues up front that you need to correct, and then like you said, that can kind of happen while you're in processing, we already know up front that is something that we needed to address right away, so that once we're in processing, and example, we need to get your verification of your rental done, at least we know you've alerted your landlord that they're going to be calling you. Let's verify rent, because if we can't get a hold of your landlord or your employer or anything, that can delay that time frame also. So there's just anything can happen throughout the escrow, as they were mentioning. So that's why it's important to know up front what we're going to expect from you, once we get you into contract, once we're going to what items that we're going to need from you at that time. So as she says, as quickly as everyone works together, as quickly as we can close it. We are one of those lenders who do ask for the 45 days for that reason, unexpected items that can come up. But I've closed loans in 25 days. So it all depends on how fast the whole, everybody works together and gets everything done. And you've notified your potential people who we need to reach out to also get your reports or get your information into us as quickly as we can. So keep that in mind as well. But definitely there are lenders who who accept spouse income less than a year. I've heard of other lenders who accept spouse if they've just been working 6 months. So that's where you need to go in and do your research on what lenders will allow that income, but for sure. So don't let that hinder you. We most definitely will be able to include both spouse income for this particular scenario here.
Is there any programs for those interested in building a new home on a lot? You know what? Off the top of my head, I'm not aware of any. However, I think this is an area of expertise for one of our lending partners that does work with investments, and it may be more on the um, I'm trying to think of the name. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Hard money lenders, or lenders who do service hard money loans, because they do work a lot more on figuring on the lot process. There's actually a few banks that we work with, and I believe Tri-County Bank now does service loans for homes that are going to get built on the lot. And it functions a little bit differently than than financing a home with the property already structured on it. So we do have to find a particular lender that does that type of a loan. But Joanne, yeah, please feel free to reach out to us directly. We will be sending up a follow-up email with our contact information and email where you can reach us, and we can definitely partner you up with the lender who can answer those questions for you. So it looks like we've covered all the questions that we have. If there isn't any others, I will ask Mitch if he can close us out on prayer before we close up this.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. I'm blown away by just your presence. Bethany, thank you for your transparency in talking about what you've been through as a renter. Thank you guys for asking questions. I know that being at a point where you're not quite sure what the loan process is like makes you vulnerable. So I thank you guys for sharing that vulnerability with us. And my prayer today is just peace for your home, and that you all would be loved in a way that is safe for you, whatever that means, that you would be protected from whatever's going on in your life, whether it is grief, financial hardship, relationships issues, whatever it is, and that today would be a blessed day for you. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Mitch. Thank you, everyone in attendance. Thank you so much, Bethany, and thank you all for joining us, Tiffany. You guys have
Thanks for having us. Thanks for hosting.
Most definitely. It's our absolute pleasure.